Sayın Başkonsolos, saygıdeğer akademisyenler, değerli katılımcılar ve kıymetli misafirler, Keşmir sorununun bölgesel ve uluslararası boyutları isimli online konferansımızın 30 Haziran 2020 tarihli ikinci gün oturumu için bir aradayız. Hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Dear Consul General, dear academics, participants and guests, welcome to the second day of online conference entitled Kashmir Regional and International Dimensions. İkinci günün ilk oturumunda Pakistan Başkonsolosu Sayın Bilal Khan Paşa onur konuğumuz olarak bu oturuma şeref verecektir. Sayın Profesör Doktor Valid Resul'ün moderatörlük yapacağı konferansımızın ikinci gününün ilk oturumunda konuşmacılar ve sunum başlıkları şöyle. The first session of today will be moderated by Professor Valid Resul, Consul General of Pakistan, Mr. Bilal Khan Pasha, our guest of honor, will be the first speaker. Presenters with their papers in the sessions are as follows. Emre Aktuna, Türkiye ve diğer bazı ülkeler ile uluslararası kuruluşların Keşmir sorununa bakışı. Mubin Shah, Way Ahead to Settle Kashmir Regional and International Dimensions. Khalid Rahman, Kashmir Issue Amid Regional and Global Dynamics. Now, I give Professor Valid Resul the floor.
It's my profound gratitude that Turkish University had taken updated and on-time initiative to have this deliberation to pool the scholars, academicians, and the stakeholders together. My special thanks to Professor Dr. Hilal Toka Sahab, HOD Urdu Department. Thanks to Professor Hayat Devali, Dean Faculty of Letters, and Professor Dr. Muhammad Ak, Rector of Istanbul University. And my special thanks to my leader, Dr. Jian Fai, who is representing the pulse of the Kashmiri people and spent his all life in the struggle of the Kashmir. We are really thankful to the President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who represented our wishes and aspirations in the United Nations. Before we open today's session, I congratulate Dr. Thakur again. Now I request Bilal Khan Pasha Sahab, who is our guest of honor of today's session and is the Consulate General of Islamic Republic of Pakistan in Turkey. His topic is a survey of Turkey in the organization and the Kashmir issue. Definitely, it will be an intellectual input because he is having an academic and the diplomatic experience. The floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Sheikh Wali Sahab. Thank you very much, Ahmad Bey. And let me begin by expressing my profound regards and gratitude to the Istanbul University, especially its Faculty of Letters, for convening this very important online international conference. In fact, I observed the proceedings of the day one, the previous day, and I must congratulate the hard work and the efforts put in by the team of Faculty of Letters, especially as mentioned by Sheikh Sahab, the Honorable Professor Dr. Ali Tokar. I would also like to thank the distinguished scholars and researchers who are participating in this event, who participated yesterday also. And for this session, as Sheikh Sahab has mentioned, we'll be joined by Emre Tuna Bey, Dr. Mubin Shah Sahab, and Khalid Rahman Sahab. And I'm grateful for their gracious presence. I'm sure that this virtual interaction, which we are witnessing, would help us take stock of the deteriorating humanitarian and human rights situation in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and some sort of formulation for a way forward we would be expecting, inshallah, by the close of this 2 days event. The Kashmir dispute, as we all know, is the oldest unresolved international conflict in the world today. A number of, I won't reiterate, but a number of UN resolutions had promised the right of self-determination to the suppressed people of Kashmir. Regrettably, this right has not yet been realized because of unabated repression and the state terrorism by India in the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And for over now more than 7 decades, the human dignity of the Kashmiris is being violated now for the last few years, almost on a daily basis. This 72 years of illegal occupation of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, in fact, are a saga of brutalization of the Kashmiri people. As I was listening to the comments before, more than 900,000 occupation forces had converted this beautiful region into the largest prison of the world. Post 5th August 2019, India, as we have all witnessed, has unleashed a new reign of terror and locking the region down, abusing human rights of the innocent people, especially women, children, elderly, and with much impunity. This we have not been witnessing, let's say, in the first decade of 2000, but since the advent of this RSS-led government, we have seen unprecedented brutalities. And the Kashmiri people, they have been deprived of their rights to life, food, health, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and to top it all, there has been a digital curfew. I would term it as a digital curfew with no access whatsoever of the outside world in the Kashmir and vice versa. India's illegal and unilateral actions of 5th August 2019 are primarily aimed at altering the disputed status of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir and bringing about demographic changes to undermine the right to self-determination of Kashmiris. The latest steps, as we have all witnessed in this direction, are the Jammu and Kashmir reorganization, adaptation of State Law Order 2020, and the Jammu and Kashmir Grant of Domicile Certificate Procedure Rules 2020. The very recent grant of domicile certificates of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir by the Indian authorities to reportedly, as we have been reading in the press, to over more than 25,000 Indian nationals, in fact, is a vindication of Pakistan's consistent stance that the major intention, the primary intention behind the Indian government's illegal and unilateral actions of August 2019 was to change the demographic structure of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir and to turn Kashmiris into a minority in their own land. This has long been a part of the RSS and BJP Hindutva agenda, which we all know. By changing the demographic structure of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian government intends to undermine the exercise by the Kashmiri people of their right to self-determination through a free, fair, and impartial plebiscite under the auspices of the United Nations as per the UNSC resolutions. Now, Pakistan had long been sensitizing OIC, Organization of Islamic Conference, and the international community about the real Indian intention behind these actions. Pakistan has repeatedly underlined that the measures to alter Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir demographic structure are illegal and basically in violation of UNSC resolution and international law. In particular, I will quote the 4th Geneva Convention and UNSC resolution 122. While I was preparing my remarks for the session today, I came across a letter written by Mir Wais Umar Farooq, chairman of APHC. It is addressed to Pope Francis at Vatican City and written on August 23rd, 2016. And honestly, the contents of that letter seem to be like narrating a tragedy, a brutal, cruel saga, which is happening even right now, without any break, any respite. And to me, rather, the ferocity of these violations are increasing with the passage of each day. Let me quote a very relevant excerpt from that letter. The author writes, and I quote, Kashmir is akin to a tinderbox at present, with extreme volatility in the political situation, and without timely international intervention, the consequences are bound to be ghastly. Remember, it's written in 2016. The Indian state is also making the citizens of India complicit in this brutality by obfuscating and denying them information. There is an embargo on information coming out from Kashmir. Social network sites like Facebook have been forced to remove vital information from their sites under pressure from Indian netizens. No international human rights organization is being allowed into Kashmir for fear of exposure. All attempts at dialogue fail because the Indian state is intransient and insists Kashmir is its integral part. No matter if it has to kill all Kashmiris for that, they are not prepared to listen to Kashmiris. It has become an endless struggle, and every time we confront a dead end. Now, please focus on his words, that is dead end. And in fact, when we look at the recent wave of unprecedented Indian state-sponsored terrorism in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and the discriminatory steps against minorities, especially Muslims, in the wake of this Citizenship Amendment Act, which in fact, these developments have brought this dead end. And rather, I would say it's a culmination of the Hindutva agenda ideology espoused by this RSS-led Indian government. Now, through these reprehensible actions, along with continuing restrictions, excruciating military lockdowns, crackdowns every now and then, extrajudicial killings, arbitrary detentions and incarcerations, and unabated grave human rights violations, in fact, India seeks to further perpetuate its illegal occupation of Indian-occupied and Jammu and Kashmir. However, we all know that India's suppression tactics have not been able to break the will of the Kashmiri people in the past, and inshallah, it will not succeed in doing so in the future as well. The other day, I was looking at the excerpts of the address of the Indian Prime Minister to the nation on completion of 1 year for his second term in office. And in fact, he has described abrogation of Article 370 and Citizenship Amendment Act as landmark achievement for his government. He says, and I quote, "The decision on Article 370 furthered the spirit of national unity and integration. It is an expression of India's compassion and spirit of inclusiveness," unquote. Now, honestly, I'm appalled as to what is being described as a landmark achievement, as immediately, if we all know that after that unconstitutional announcement last year, a curfew was imposed in the valley, along with suspension of all fundamental rights, all the democratic exercise, with thousands of political and civil activists, civil society activists, they have been detained during those unprecedented protests, which have been followed in the months and even to date. In fact, the address of the Indian Prime Minister, if you look at it deeply, it's a brazen attempt to deny the reality and further the majoritarian agenda, that is Hindutva, at a time when the government, in fact, the Indian government should have been focusing on the economic and health crisis in which the whole nation is engulfed into. With this approach prevalent at the highest echelons of the government in India, I'm afraid Kashmir is headed for more conflict, both domestic and international, and we would be witnessing more and more anger. Also, it is headed for more alienation. And in fact, never before we have witnessed democracy in India look so weak, meager, and in fact, I would use the term so besieged. So it is highly, of course, reprehensible that while the world community is grappling with COVID-19 pandemic, India remains busy in intensifying its brutalization of the Kashmiri people. The inhuman restrictions imposed on them, in fact, have exacerbated the coronavirus challenge, with access to medical and other supplies severely hampered. And in fact, we ourselves have been witnessing what kind of difficulties we face when we have to move into these lockdown situation. And imagine the Kashmiri people who have been facing this rather more severe lockdowns, military lockdowns for the past several years now. Now this RSS-inspired BJP government has in fact refused to respond to the appeals of the United Nations Secretary General and a UN High Commission for Human Rights to release all the political and other prisoners who are basically right now at risk in those crowded jails. The senior Hurriyat leaders, they remain incarcerated, with Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani Sahab under house arrest for now more than 10 years. Now, India is seeking to cover up the reality of the popular and indigenous struggle of the Kashmiri people by terming it as terrorism. And in fact, they are also blaming Pakistan by raising the familiar bogey, as they have been doing it in the past, of cross-LOC, so-called cross-LOC infiltration. Now, this is a complete travesty that could not have been farther from the truth. As part of this cover-up, in fact, India has, as we have all witnessed, further in fact, they have intensified its violation of the ceasefire along the line of control and the working boundary. I have few statistics which I would like to mention, that since 1st January till 31st of May, India has committed 1,440 ceasefire violations. Now you can well imagine the average of these cease violations per day. And then they have deliberately targeted the innocent civilians on the Pakistani side of the LOC, killing as of now more than 15 people and injuring 105, including women and children. Now the situation is so tense at present that recently the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, he made a statement, and I quote that statement: there is a possibility that in order to divert world's attention from its state terrorism and unacceptable actions in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, India may resort to false flag operation and undertake some other misadventure which could imperil regional peace and security, unquote. So in view of this grave situation, it is imperative that the UN, OIC and the world community should step up their efforts to facilitate a lasting solution to the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. Because right now the people of Indian occupied and Jammu and Kashmir, they look more towards the support from their Muslim brethren, from OIC and from Muslim Ummah. The government of Pakistan has called for immediate 3 steps in order to bring normalcy in the valley. First, India should resign its unilateral and illegal actions since 5th August 2019. Second, halt its blatant human rights violation, ending of military lockdowns, release the political leadership, and doing away with digital curfew. And lastly, the third is provide unhindered access to OIC, IPHRC, UN, other human rights organizations, and international media to report on the situation in the occupied territory. Now, if we are to see the economic prosperity and development, education and progress, and peace and security in South Asia, we all know that it has become imperative that the international community ought to take this burning dispute seriously and be proactive in appraising themselves of the ground reality of the Kashmir and use their good offices to get this issue on the table for some sort of an imaginative solution. We would like to listen more from the experts, from the researchers. But before concluding my remarks, I once again thank the Faculty of Letters of Istanbul University, on behalf of the government of Pakistan, on behalf of the people of Pakistan, for raising this issue and for hosting this conference. We are also thankful, and I would especially mention, we are also thankful for the unconditional, unwavering, and unflinching support by the government of Turkey and from the people of Turkey, who we always see stand side by side with Pakistan through thick and thin. We have never before and would never, inshallah, God willing, forget the contributions made by the people of Turkey. And we pray to the Almighty Allah that our unique bonds of brotherhood and friendship keep growing by leaps and bounds. I'm also grateful for the participation by the audience who have joined through social media and YouTube. And lastly, the invaluable contribution made by the honorable participants over the course of this conference. In fact, we would surely be benefiting from your valued and learned thoughts and from your immensely enriched inputs, inshallah. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sheikh Sahab.
Thank you. He was His Excellency Bilal Khan Pasha Sahab. His updated, valuable, and powered by statistical data input was really a good contribution for this session. And I agree that the points which Government of Pakistan had put forward will definitely help to in the right direction of the resolution of the Kashmir issue. Now, before commenting, now I would like to invite a versatile personality. Who is having the dialectical approach, and is a dialectical personality, Dr. Mubin Shah, who has been the president of Chamber of Commerce, and he also taken an initiative to join the Jammu and Kashmir Chamber with AJ&K Chamber. And then he was a founding president of Joint Chambers of Commerce also. He belongs to one of the elite and healthy and wealthy family of the Indian occupied Kashmir. And he has been recently released, and he is 24 worker of the Kashmir cause. Dr. Shah Saab, sir, floor is yours.
Thank you, Sheikh Saab. It is a pleasure to participate in such a meeting, and I certainly thank Istanbul University for holding this conference, and particularly Professor Dr. Ilhar Thoker, Professor Dr. Hayat Diveli, and Professor Dr. Mahmood A.K. It is, and I am going to speak on way ahead to settle Kashmir, because this is very dear to us. That now it is the third generation is already involved in that we need to settle Kashmir. Now third generation. My father's generation gone, my generation also almost ending, and my children's generation is coming. So the next, their children also, we want them to be presented with the settlement of Kashmir. So that is why we are also fighting. Each and everybody in Kashmir is fighting about it. So in order to settle Kashmir, it is very important to see the present reality of Kashmir, notwithstanding Mr. Sheikh Wadeed's comments before we started this, that reality is a different thing in the present international community. It is based on power. But we want to base it on reality, what is reality on the ground. So what is the present Kashmir's reality? There is and has, all of you know that there has been a strong movement for freedom by the people of Kashmir through one basic thing, and that is right of self-determination. That is one slogan on which all Kashmiris are one, right of self-determination. Some people may have, they want to become part of Pakistan. Some people may want to become independent. But this one slogan of right of self-determination is the one slogan on which everybody is together. Whether we have our resistance leadership, whether it is a person on the street. So because I heard yesterday also some of the people who spoke about it, that there are so many factions unfortunately in our non-resident Kashmiris also. They are today fighting on whether we should go to Pakistan or whether we should go to independence. No, we should have only one slogan, whether I am from Pakistan, whether I am from Kashmir, and that is right of self-determination. Let the world give us that first, and then please decide where to go to, that whether it is to go to Pakistan, whether it to go to independence. We want to be out of India. There is no other question about it. Number one. So what is the present reality is also that there are three powerful outside forces standing in the way of this freedom of the Kashmiri citizens. One is India, another is Pakistan, and to a limited yet growing sense, China. Pakistan and China, we as Kashmiris are sure, will decide to settle Kashmir as per aspirations of the Kashmiri people. While as India is putting all the impediments to implement the plebiscite they have agreed in the United Nations. Although the various outside forces have their own reasons for maintaining their hold on the geographical areas of Kashmir, thus denying the freedom necessary for Kashmiri people, they must recognize that in the long run, this freedom will come about. I'm a very optimistic man, and I have been fighting for this for a long time through whatever means I could. Just look at the current and past event throughout history. The people who have stood up for freedom, they will get it freedom. One today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. It will come. South Asia can be only secure if Kashmir is peaceful and tranquil. This was already told yesterday by His Excellency Mr. Ali Sahin also. And I emphasize it more, that tranquility cannot be ensured through the barrel of the gun. We have to realize that. And people all over the world should understand this. Peace in the region is possible only when the legitimate aspirations of the people concerned are acknowledged and honored by all the parties concerned. Kashmiris are not asking for the moon. Like every other nation, we yearn for democracy, rule of law, human rights, and good governance. I take the opportunity here also to thank again His Excellency, Mr. Ali Sahin, which has become very viral in our Twitters, about this statement yesterday that children of Srinagar are children of Ankara, women of Kashmir Valley are women of Anatolia, tears of Kashmiri mother, tears of Turkish mothers, and hope that this is the view, and I hope that this is the view of all countries who believe to work for the self-determination of Kashmir. We don't want to become a bone of contention for the nuclear armed countries. We will be an excellent bridge for all the peoples of the region, regardless of their ideologies. After all, we were on the ancient Silk Route, hosting caravans for different places, resulting in well-being all around. For no fault of ours, we are responsible for the immeasurable poverty of the region, because all scarce and precious resources of the region are dumped in the arms race, which is at this time there. We have illiteracy, disease, malnutrition because of arms race, only to subjugate us, only to subjugate Kashmiris. Why not turn the leaf? Grant us our all long denied rights, guaranteed by the UN Charter, sanctified by the relevant UN Security Council resolutions, international covenants regarding various rights, political, civil, economic, social, and cultural, and 4th Geneva Conventions. History of last 73 years has proven that Kashmiris will not surrender their rights, no matter what ploys are used to tame them. The urge for freedom is embedded in the DNA of all Kashmiris. My father's generation, my generation, my son's generation, his son's generation will be also having this DNA of freedom for Kashmir. We continue to suffer physically, economically, mentally, and are rendering enormous sacrifices to win this freedom. It is not a lockdown of only 2 months or 8 months. Gentlemen and the world should know they have had 3,000 days of lockdown in the last 30 years. And you can understand what is the implication on economy. I am a businessman. I know what is the implication of economy on the 3,000 days we have suffered under lockdowns. Why? Because non-settlement of Kashmir. Because it's all because of non-settlement. People like me who are businessmen are forced, not only forced, we want it that it be settled as per the aspiration. We are not asking anything. Aspiration of the Kashmiri people. We are not putting a gun towards anybody. We are asking to save our right. And every businessman, he may not be at this time possible for him to speak out. Everyone, he will see that these 3,000 days are there. He has got affected economically, otherwise also, and that is why it is needed that we want freedom. This is also one of the reasons why everybody is with it. What we want under the Kashmiri, who has suffered in various ways, including internment of 4 months in a cell in Agra jail. They put me in a cell in Agra jail. And after removal of the 370 and 35A of their constitution, and have now just recently, only day for yesterday, booked for sedition on a Facebook post advising people of Kashmir to put up a collective fight against settler colonialism of India after they started issuing domicile certificate. They want to completely close down all dissent, and that is why they made examples like us. Now they have made another example. They first put us in prison. Now this is another example of having a FIR lodged to me for sedition. Now what Kashmiris want? Kashmiris want 4 things: right of self-determination, stoppage of demographic change, halt human rights violation, and release of prisoners. All the other 3, everybody of you will know, so no need for me to describe it in totality. But release of prisoners, I want to point out one very important thing. I read an article which had a very apt heading, that in Kashmir, the whole Kashmir has been described as a crisis constitutionalism. Is a crisis, permanent emergency, and an amnesis of international law. This is what is the position regarding release of prisoners. Unfortunately, in India, in case of Kashmir, the courts have become an extension of the executive. And this law, particularly of PSA, by which we are stopped and stifled for even talking, has been used as on everyone and everybody, where the highest Indian court has also failed us on the basic thing of individual liberty, which is a universal right, and has been compromised. And in case of Kashmir, even their own directions. For example, I went to the Supreme Court. My family went to the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court, their own rules are that within 15 days it should be decided. My case was decided after 2.5 months, and they did not give the decision. The decision, I was released because of pressure of the US Senate. They did not give the decision. Supreme Court, after 2.5 months, under spending quite a lot of bit of money, they did not give a decision of 2.5 months. They had so many, deferred the case. That means it is an extension of the state, nothing else. Now, before I go to what needs to be done, I want to give us some idea about what is the regional and international dimensions. We Kashmiris, we expect all nations devoted to justice, equity, democracy, and fair play to join our struggle for freedom. It will be negation of their conscience and political ethos to batter away our rights at the altar of trade considerations in relation to our oppressors. This is one of the main factors. The United States or any other country in Europe or even in our Middle East, unfortunately, these things the trade is one of the important factors which is on their minds to put sanctions on India. Keeping above in view and the principles involved in the above, there are many gray areas, as it is not an idle word. And there is a view of the regional countries first and then in turn the world. We have to understand that in everything, particularly in case of Kashmir, each regional country will think through its national interest first and then other things. Out of the extended region of Asia and Middle East, besides Central Asia, which I consider the regional area of ours, as we have been connected to these areas for centuries, which unfortunately got blocked after 1947. How many countries support us in this region, which I call the regional areas? I think the majority of them do, but they are not open about it. Only China, Pakistan, and Turkey openly support. Besides Malaysia, where I am, but it's not in that region, openly support us, while as others have still not come out in the open. The only hope which we have now got is that the latest OIC communique. That means the whole Muslim Ummah is with us. They have issued the communique exactly what Kashmiris want. The 4 things which I first enumerated, they have enumerated those 4 things only. This is what we want. That we must have this first, right of self-determination. Second, stoppage of democratic change. Third is halt of human rights and release of prisoners. We have to be very, very clear about it. A lot of people who are in contact with me or come and send me messages, they say OIC has done nothing up to now. Okay, but this is where we have to start again. Let us start again from there, and we have to we get this implemented. Those 4 things. I will not go into those details because it will take a lot of time for that. Because there's already available on internet and everything. But these are the main 4 things which they have agreed to. And this is what Pakistan has also asked, as per Mr. Bilal, this is what they are also asking from India. Now, what to do? We have to break the status quo in Kashmir in favor of Kashmiris. This is the most important thing, because we have to understand India has broken the status quo, which was there from 1947 on 5th of August, when they took away the 31735A articles of their own constitution, which was giving a nominal autonomy, which had been diluted already, except that Kashmir still enjoyed a guarantee on ownership of land and domicile reservation for Kashmiris, which now is removed completely by change in laws. This has to be also understood, that they had already diluted whatever they had agreed in 1947 with Sheikh Abdullah and all. They had diluted all completely. So only these two things, the vestiges were still there, and they had removed that also. Now, what do I suggest to break the status quo? Some friends of mine will be angry. They may not be happy with it, but this is what I feel, because I am a person who would say upfront what Kashmiris feel about it. So I suggest the following. Being a person who has been connected with the economy of the Indian administered Kashmir, I had advocated from the day I became President Kashmir Chamber of Commerce 2006 that the Indian government declare our side of Kashmir as a free economic zone. It was because I lived for 13 years in Singapore. And when I went back in 2003 from Singapore, I saw the country had developed because it was a free economic zone. And free economic zone fits in because we are in a region where a free economic zone can do wonders for a place like Kashmir, which I have written down in detail. Then, which converted into a demand for declaration of our whole of Jammu and Kashmir as a free economic zone when I became the president of the joint chamber, Mr. Sheikh Walid Rasool mentioned about, the JKJCCI, and which Jammu chamber was also there. Jammu chamber was also there. AJK chamber was also there. Kashmir chamber was also there. There was a resolution passed that the whole area be declared as free economic zone. Now, with the LOC trade finished, everything finished, but still, you know, we have this CPEC. When the CPEC came, I had suggested that, and I take this opportunity of this platform to tell the government of Pakistan to declare their side of Kashmir as a free economic zone completely, and not part by part, which they are doing. They have done some special economic zones, but the whole of Azad Jammu and Kashmir as a free economic zone because of CPEC. Because this is one thing which will completely change the whole geography and the whole thing about Kashmir. And after they do that, side by side, the Pakistan through its friends and countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE and USA, who are not very open about our right of self-determination, but we have got good relations with India, that they declare our side also on the same pattern as a free economic zone. This model of mine is now further relevant because of the Chinese government to safeguard the CPEC. As everybody believes that the recent incursions in Ladakh point to the region, as well as the world cannot afford. The point is, the world cannot afford a risk of nuclear war, not only between India and Pakistan, but now between China and India also. Because if India reacts the way they are trying to build up their public, then there is going to be another risk of another nuclear war between China and India. This will, for the model I am suggesting, it will be a win-win situation for everybody, and particularly to the 65.46% of human population, which is living in China, 31.35%, India 29.72%, and Pakistan 4.39%. So that means 65% of the human population is in these three countries. And they will be safe and they will be peaceful if this model is created. I have written papers on it on my blog, The Ultimate Oasis, as long back as 2015. And once CPEC became operative, wrote a document on the same impact of explaining the above concept. Now, For varied reasons, if the government of Pakistan does not take these steps, they do not agree to these steps, then the second alternative is, because we have to break the status quo. Let me be very frank to all my participants and to whoever is listening to me, that if above is not possible, then Pakistan declare Azad Kashmir government independent in all respects in Muzaffarabad to fight the freedom war and get it recognized like Palestine with the AJK government representing the voice of Kashmiri people. This is another alternative to the first one. First one is all the countries are with it. And the second one is this, that they declare this thing, but because we want Kashmiri voice to be heard by the world. Pakistan is there. They have given blood for us. They have given us support up till now. But now is the time for the Kashmiri voice to be heard by all over the world. And who will represent us? Either it has to be the AJK government, or number 3, if Pakistan has reservations on this second option also. I don't know what because I have never talked to any Pakistani government official, because I have as President Kashmir Chamber of Commerce, I have talked to the Indian government, including the Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, twice for 80 minutes. But if they do not have these two options, they are not comfortable with, then the third option is declare a J&K government in exile, having representation for the AJK government, besides people from the NRK community in all over the world, which supports, and in a country like Turkey or Malaysia. Because this is important. This is the time for the people of Kashmir to tell what they want. And we are sure with the present Prime Minister, Mr. Imran Khan, who has been public about it, that I will go according to what people of Kashmir want. So he is flexible. So if we will take him to his word, that if he is flexible, he will take his word that these are the 3 options. And all these above is important. Why these are important? The Kashmiri voice needs to be heard. Is that if this particular, you have to understand, if we have a government, we have a secretariat, it cannot be a slipshod arrangement. Somebody is talking in Britain, somebody is talking in Malaysia, somebody is talking somewhere. But this is where everything will come together and fight our cause. Fight our cause for what? For going to International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court. We will go to the countries. Leave aside making a person in charge in the Pakistani Parliament for Kashmir. No, Kashmiri voice, led by Kashmiri, and it should be. That is why these 3 options are there. Okay, now. Lord Nazir yesterday suggested this International Court of Justice. He said about the small country, how they went and all that. Because, this is very, very important also. That, one of the worst lawless law is the PSA, under which our people are reeling. And the application of this law on civil society activists, when include lawyers, businessmen, doctors, teachers, etc., including me, is the reason Kashmiris are not able to even dissent and speak out against the laws they are applying. Implement the work and decisions of the latest communique of the OIC. Now, another important thing which has been discussed by His Excellency, the President of Azad Kashmir, is the BDS movement. I have a suggestion in that, which is also going to be very, very important. The boycott, divestment and sanctions. This is an important action which needs to be planned and executed. As we know, this is going to affect Indian economy. You have to understand, India is standing on its economy. And if because of the COVID, they have a problem in the economy, this will be a double whammy for them if we people, Kashmiris, join together all over the world and have this BDS system working not only in the Middle East, but all over the world. Now, yesterday, there was a statement I was encouraged by seeing yesterday, a news report. There are 250 prominent South Africans, top people, called for sanction to stop annexation of Israel under the BSDS movement of Palestine against Israel. We want a similar thing for a big Kashmiri BDS movement against India. And this now has to go to all over the world. And let us see, yesterday they were telling me that there are 3 million or 4 million or 5 million Kashmiri diaspora. We don't want them to protest and put up the flags and all. No, sorry. We want them to picket all the corporations who are investing in India. Picket all those corporations who are making the economy of India work. Even if we picket one or two, organizations like Facebook, WhatsApp, biggest investment has been done during COVID in Reliance. You can understand. If we picket them, if we picket all our people who are in all these places, they picket them and they make them realize. You see, the latest movement of this Black Lives Matter is basically because of the people on the street. All over the country in America have got out. Same thing happened in Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was stopped by America because of the public outrage, public support. This is what we want. I don't suggest that we go and picket the Indian embassy. What for? I don't want to. I don't want to spend time there. I want to picket these corporations who are giving the money and blood and working on our blood. They are not doing anything. They will get conscious. Their conscience will be raised. And number 4. You see, one of your Turkish singers has, recently, had a song about Kashmir. Very good. Beautiful. This is where we were lacking. And there is a need for international icons in the entertainment and sports fields, who are icons not in places like, India and Pakistan. They should be icons in the Middle East of entertainment and sports. Who can talk our language, that what we are suffering from. And they have to be icons in the Western world. Sportsmen, like a footballer, who's a footballer, and he gives support to us. You can understand the public will be, we want to tackle the public, leave aside the governments. Governments, let Pakistan handle them. But we as anarchists should go and to the bottom of it. That is my belief. This is why I put up a Facebook page, although on my Facebook page I actually copied it from Kashmir Civitas. They had put it on a for example, on their Twitter, but they had not elaborated it. I changed it and put it on a Facebook page. It became viral all over Kashmir, and I'm getting telephones, and I'm getting now, and the government was forced to put a case against me. My dear, I am sort of passionate about it, but this is what I feel. We have to change the status quo. The Pakistan government has to agree and has to understand. Now is the time. We are in such a stage. You will not believe us. What we as a people are suffering from in Kashmir. I am a doctor basically by education. My class fellow, he's the best. He was the best, psychiatrist. He tells me what is the suffering there. I cry when I talk to him. I cry. Exactly, I cry. What people in Kashmir are suffering from. Psychiatric problems. It is high time Pakistan takes a decision and Kashmir issue is decided and discussed, and the way forward is what I have discussed. This is the only way. There's a peaceful way also, provided these two countries meet up, China, India, and there is a win-win situation. This win-win situation came to me from Singapore. Singapore also has problems with Malaysia, but they are doing it through economy, win-win situation, so that everybody, the same model I am trying to create. That was what my free economic zone was, finally. And this is where we had to. Thank you very much.
Professor
Thank you,
Walid,
Dr.
yeah.
Saab. Thank
Your
you, Dr.
microphone.
Saab. Dr. Mubin Shah was speaking the pain of his nation. Really, every word was coming from his heart, because he has been personally suffered, and he had paid the huge cost for the Kashmir cause. He has given some valuable suggestions, and I think the people who are near to the corridors of the power and who have global access to some international and national platforms, we may summarize something about from his really a vision which is carrying the sense. Now I would request, ladies and gentlemen, I will request another speaker. Maybe he is here. I might say that nations are driven by wisdom and powered by ideology. Since Pakistan is an Islamic Republic of Pakistan, our strong ties with Islamic world are all but natural, which is embedded in our DNA. And I would like to invite an architect of applied wisdom.
Professor, I'm extremely sorry. I guess you are not delivered the updated version of the program. There was Emre Aktuna in the speak. Is it possible to invite him? Emre Aktuna, and his title, I've read it before. Türkiye ve diğer bazı ülkeler ile uluslararası kuruluşların Keşmir sorununa bakışı. Maybe this is too fast for you, but he can also say it before he starts to talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Amrin Iktima. Please, podium is yours. Sir, podium is yours.
Thank you. Dear Council General and dear participants, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, before beginning my words, I want to thank to Istanbul University and Professor Dr. Halil Toker for organizing such an event. I think you got the draft version of the program, so my subject is on, my speech is on a survey of Turkey and several countries and international organizations on Kashmir issue. I will not take your valuable time so long. When I was a child, I just want to tell you something. When I was a child, our elders were speaking about the problems of the Ummah. And in Turkey, there were 5 key problems. One is Kashmir, one is Cyprus, Kıbrıs in Turkish, one is Al-Quds, one is Kashgar, and one is Karabakh in Azerbaijan. We were raised by these problems. So I just wanted to make a comparative analysis between these. In fact, I have selected 3 of them, the Cyprus, the Al-Quds, and Kashmir, because there are some resemblances between these problems. For the Ummah, for the border and land problems, for the issues, they are showing some similarities. So I have selected these 3 lands and regions, and I tried to make an attempt for a comparative chronological analysis. Then I will just shortly talk about the Turkey's view, Turkey's stance on Kashmir issue. Then, by the nature of this issue, I will talk about Pakistan, India, China, UK, US, Russia, and European Union's view on stance on Kashmir issue. When we say like that, it will take like hours and hours, but I will try to summarize it like 10 minutes, inshallah. Then lastly, about the international organizations stance about the Kashmir issue, South Asian Association, Regional Cooperation on Kashmir issue, and Organization of Islamic Countries. So I will try to share my, no problem. I was planning to share my screen because I will just show you some pictures, photographs taken by the journalists. One was from the Palestine, who were stone pelters, and one was from the Kashmir, and you couldn't just decide which one is from where. So it's just showing the same similarities between the Al-Quds and Kashmir, within Cyprus and Kashmir, or these cities facing the same similar problems within the chronological order. So, for example, in the middle of the 19th century, for example, UK just opened its first consulate on Palestine in 1838. At the same time, nearly, the selling of Kashmir to Hindu Dogras, you know. and Cyprus Convention was by the Cyprus Convention. Cyprus was granted to UK in 1878. I mean, these are the similar dates. Also, in the First World War, these similar things happened to the UK Mandate of Palestine. The rights of the Cyprus were given to UK. It was just similar happenings in the regions. So after the World War II, again the similar things happened. Like in 1947, the UN has offered two-state solution in Palestine. Also, the Pakistan and India was founded. Also, after the Indian War in 1948, Indian-Pakistan War in 1948, UN has offered a plebiscite, and the Cyprus was officially declared their will to unite to Greece in 1948. I will not take it too long. I mean, in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, it's all showing the similarities at the same time. When, for example, Turkish army deployed in Cyprus, we won our rights. And when Yom Kippur War happened, Egypt has taken Sinai Peninsula. I mean, and the present day, Al-Quds, for example, the US moved their embassy to Al-Quds. Cyprus just negotiations has ended because of the hydrocarbon resources of the island. When we come to the present day, I can see that something, if we don't use our hard power on something, we are not able to get our rights. Normally, I'm working in Turkey Cooperation and Coordination Agency, which is the soft power and official development agency of Turkey, and I'm supporting this using the soft power or smart power in cooperating and coordinating with the other countries. But in these Kashmir issue, in Al-Quds issue, in Cyprus, or in Kashgar, or in Nagorno-Karabakh, you can just see, when you look at the history, you can see the rights that you've taken by the hard force. The hard power use is really important. Normally, for example, when in 2017, when I have met with Mr. Sardar Masood Khan, he privately told me that what we learned from Turkey part is we were always apologetic to everyone, like we were Muslim because we are sorry because we are Muslims. We are just Asian, sorry for that. Like that, I mean, we were always apologetic, but when we just got our hard power, we got some rights, we got our rights, what we need to have. So to summarize all these things, I will just share the documents later. When we just look at the chronological, historical background, the use of hard power is really important to get what Kashmiri people wants to have their rights.
Mr. Aktuna, you can use share screen now.
Okay. Share screen. This one. Share. By the way, I just forgot, because why I have selected the comparative analysis by the historical background. Radha Kumar, which was the author of Paradise at War, A Political History of Kashmir book. In the book, it says, a political scientist on Kashmir once said to me, you cannot discuss Kashmir or the Kashmir conflict without starting the history. I mean, history is really important. And when we look at that, for example, at the left side, you can see the Palestinian stone pelters, and at the right, you can see the Kashmiri, or the other part, doesn't matter. I mean, they are really showing the resemblances. For example, one was from the Cyprus and one was from the Palestine. You can just decide which one is which one, but it shows really the resemblance. At the left, you can understand from the topi, it's from the Kashmir, and in the right side, it's from the Gaza. So you need to just compare these problems with regard to the history, chronological order. And as I have told it before, So you will just see the same things, exactly the same, nearly the same years. I mean, 1947, 1948, like 1945, 1974, 1975. They are just happening in the same order. Present day Al-Quds, we have lost. US President declared Al-Quds as the capital of Israel and moved their embassy to Al-Quds. In Cyprus, we have just lost. The negotiations were interrupted because the hydrocarbon resources of the island. And present day Kashmir, just giving some info about it. You have told it many times, so I'm not going over it again. For example, you will just see, for example, in the 1946 Truman Doctrine was about Turkey and Greece. In 1957, Eisenhower Doctrine was about Middle East, and 1979 Carter Doctrine was about Afghanistan. So, for example, American President Lyndon Johnson sent a letter to Prime Minister İsmet İnönü at that time, criticizing Turkey's role in the Cyprus crisis because and they have prevented Turkey to use its own military forces in Cyprus because the given equipment was NATO equipment. So we couldn't use it. Even if we had the equipment, we couldn't use it. Also, the same thing happened in 1965. Ayub Khan and Zulfikar Bhutto has asked Central for help in 1965. Turkey decided to give 24 airplanes, but it was rejected because it was NATO donations, so we couldn't use it. Still, Turkey managed to give a donation of equipment of $5 million, but you see, if you can't have your own power, you will not be able to help anyone, I mean, share the resources. Now the second part is Turkey on Kashmir issue. Pakistan and Turkey are everlasting friends, and India is supporting Greek side on Cyprus issue. So Pakistan and Turkey signed the Treaty of Friendship in Karachi on 1954. Turkey is starting the Kashmir issue by the time that Pakistan and India gain independence from the United Kingdom and become independent states. It starts with not with the 18th century or 19th century, but it's starting with the 1947 and 1948. Turkey taking this as a border issue rather than a religious issue most of the time. And Turkey played a mediator role in 1962 and 1963, but no results has been achieved. And lastly, in 1965, due to the war between Pakistan and India, Turkey has Kashmir issue within the perspective of Cyprus, not an historical Pakistan relations. We have three perspectives, in fact. One perspective of Turkey on Kashmir is the long lifetime friendship with Pakistan. The second is the historical relations with Turkey-Indian museums, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh museums, and Tahrik-i-Khilafat. And the third one, Baghdad and CENTO, and as an alliance of NATO. We are just looking in that perspective. To sum up, the only thing that didn't change in years is the clear stance of Turkey on Kashmir issue. Turkey, not only in the level of Ministry for Foreign Affairs, but also in the level of presidency, has embraced the Kashmir issue at UN and OIC and other international organizations. And this stance was always appreciated by Pakistani and Kashmir. What about Pakistan and Kashmir issue? That will be talked in too many times, but I will just try to make a summary about it. Kashmir is a conflicted zone because the Maharaja Singh gave the land to India without the consent of Jammu and Kashmir people. Kashmir is an uncompleted separation. Kashmir is the basis of all conflicts between Pakistan and India. Pakistan insists on the application of UN decisions on Kashmir issue. The support of the Mujahideens and moral and diplomatic, as Pakistan only allows them to pass through the line of control. Let's look at the India on Kashmir issue. Kashmir is a part of India, they say. Accession has been completed and it is legal. It is never a conflict zone during the past, and decisions of Maharaja Singh and Sheikh Abdullah supported accession. Pakistan should leave Azad Jammu Kashmir immediately. All the problems in Kashmir is the internal issues of India. The human rights violations in the region is at minimal level, and there are adequate amount of legal mechanism to investigate the claims about violations. This is the perspective of India, and China is a partner, in Kashmir issue. China is standing with Pakistan and wants Delhi to be loyal for bilateral agreements. China recommends to stay away from the operations that makes the situation more complex. Especially the changes in Ladakh region is important as it is also related with Chinese lands, and unilateral changes damages the relations. Just to add something about China, the latest conflicts between China and India. The use of hard power is also showing itself very clearly on this issue also. So I'm stressing on using the hard power on Kashmir issue would solve some problems. UK on Kashmir issue, I will just pass because Mr. Mubin Shah has just talked about the diaspora of Kashmiri people. In the latest events, there are 1.5 million Indian origin UK students in UK and 1 million Pakistan origin UK students in United Kingdom. So they just have the ability to change these things without holding the flags, but without, like pushing the economical, pushing the, changing the perception of the governments and using their power to affect the companies, Indian companies or UK companies, like they used to have in BDS, the Israel boycott type. US on Kashmir issue is evolving from mediation to internal affairs of India. So US is moving towards India. Russia was always towards India. In 1955, Khrushchev visited Srinagar and stated at that time, Kashmir is a part of India. And this is important. Russia is the only country that vetoed all UN proposals about Kashmir in UN Security Council on 1957, 1962, and 1971. Russia is also well known about using their hard power. Russia is a strong supporter of India in Kashmir issue. European Union always taking issues about the human rights perspective. So Federica Mogherini told both Pakistan and India parts to reduce the tensions. United Nations on Kashmir issue, just taking it shortly, all resolutions of the United Nations about Kashmir issue, resolution 38, 39, 47, 51, 80, 91. I mean, there are lots of resolutions, but nothing happens because they are just a recommendation. Unlike the Iraq resolution about Iraq, because resolution about Iraq was under Chapter 7, which allows the Council to determine the existence of any threat to the peace. You can take military or non-military action, but Kashmir is under Chapter 6, which deals only with peaceful settlement of details. So you cannot expect anything from United Nations on Kashmir issue. You should just see that. In 2019, UN Secretary General Guterres has told both sides UN is watching the developments like the work of the Article 370 with great concern and stated the stance of UN formed by the legislations. They are just, words and words. Also, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. I will just take this one of the articles into consideration. In 2019, in the opening meeting of the organization, Indian Foreign Secretary stated Kashmir issue is not a problem as told by the Indian ulama, and the relations of Gulf countries with India has improved a lot, and so the perception of anti-Muslim image of current government has not changed. So even it's forbidden to make this statement due to the discussing the bilateral issues in the assembly, but India has managed to discuss this. And following this statement, let me just check. Okay. Even it was forbidden, I mean, Indian Foreign Secretary has made that statement. So following this, Pakistan Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Qureshi, has left the meeting. I mean, you cannot expect anything from South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. OIC, His Excellency Ali Shahin is calling OIC as OIC. They are seeing everything, but they do nothing. I will make a summary about the thing. The UAE has invited Foreign Affairs Minister of India, Sushma Swaraj, as the guest of honor to 46th meeting of Foreign Affairs Minister. And UAE has also approved the revoke of Article 370 for it will be help the current situation get better. I mean, what you can expect from OIC you are saying. OIC members are also showing interest in other countries like the Cyprus, Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh because they are Muslims. But to sum up, OIC sees Kashmir issue an ideological one by Turkey and Pakistan, and economical issue by United Arab Emirates and Egypt. So what to expect from OIC? Just waiting for it. Why I put this two sites on the screen? Because one it says Kashmir, Pakistan, Pakistan, and the other one is No India, No Pakistan, Free Kashmir. I just wanted to tell about Allama Iqbal's view on Kashmir issue, because at the end he says, if the perfect anonymity of political opinion is not secured in Kashmir, all efforts to advance the interest of people of the state will prove ineffective. I mean, we first need to decide what Kashmiri people wants to have as their rights, even if it's an independence or the free zone, joining with the Azad Jammu Kashmir or what. We need to ask for the opinions of the Kashmiri people. And lastly, we need to be strong on the field. Most of the time, Muslim governments, Muslim states are known for winning the things in the field but losing the things on the table. So first of all, we need to start winning on the field, and then going to the table with full hands. Inshallah, it will solve our problems. I think that's enough for me. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you will have some questions, I will be glad to answer at the end of the session. Thank you very much.
When United Nations was founded in 1947, it was United Nations Commission for India and Pakistan resolution. At that time, Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 were not discussed or incorporated in the UN Charter. So it is purely an Indian version. Secondly, I want to make one more clarification what Dr. Mubin Shah already made clear. This is again that there is an illusion. What already Dr. Mubin Shah had given the answer, that right to self-determination is an answer. People want right to self-determination as per if there is a United Nations mechanism is already involved, and the resolutions are the testimony that it is an international legal dispute, despite India maintains her own interpretation. Thank you. Before, ladies and gentlemen, and now another speaker is Ahmad, actually Sir Khalid Rahman now, next one.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Actually, nations are driven by wisdom. The personality whom I invite to is an architect of applied wisdom and is working on the policy studies. He is an Director General of Institute of Policy Studies, who is having close contact with all stakeholders of the Kashmir, and is usually conducting a series of conferences on the Kashmir conflict. They have produced a lot of intellectual and policy material on the Kashmir issue, and I think it is the only think tank which is giving more time to this conflict as compared to other issues of the Pakistan. Now I am giving the podium to Sir Khalid Rahman Saab. Sir, podium is yours. Ahmad Bhai, is he present?
Yeah, Khalid Rahman was connected to Zoom actually. I saw his name.
Yeah. So should I unmute myself?
Dear Ahmad, is he present?
Yes, he was talking. Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, thank you.
Sir Khalid Rahman, continue, please.
Okay, let me begin by thanking the organizers. It has been a learning experience to be part of this particular panel, and also the time that I made myself available yesterday, both in terms of the content as well as the views of different presenters, the way they articulated their point of view. To begin with, let me take this opportunity to stress that the Kashmir issue is neither an internal issue of India and nor a bilateral issue between Pakistan and India. It is a UN designated disputed international territory. We know that there are 200 plus million Muslims in India, and they are also facing a lot of repression, with frequent lynching, rape, and torture under the Hindutva forces. An organized effort of dehumanizing Indian Muslims and turning them into new untouchables is underway. It is a matter of grave concern, and we would certainly like to raise voice for them as well. But we realize that this is fundamentally a different issue as against the Kashmir. Yes, Kashmiris, Pakistan, and India are main parties to the issue of Kashmir. But essentially, it is an international issue, and therefore, it's, if I may be allowed to say, keeping in view the title of this conference, its international status should not be discussed just as a dimension, but something which is central and integral to this issue. Once we agree to this observation, it creates certain implications. Key among these implications is that as a global citizen, we all need to make a contribution, whatever little it could be. Based on this premise, I would like to point out at least 5 important considerations which highlight the areas of our contribution. First and foremost, it is a human issue, directly involving the future of more than 14 million people, bigger than over 120 independent nations in today's world. Second, gross human rights violations are taking place in Jammu and Kashmir. How can these be ignored? Third, we need to remind ourselves that on the basis of international law, right of self-determination is a basic right and thus an inevitable requirement of the justice. Fourth, the issue is on the UN agenda since last more than 7 decades and is a test of this global body which was created on the principle of multilateralism. And let me recall here the resolution that was adopted by the apex body on 14 June 2019, exactly a year back from now. The resolution outlines the theme to commemorate these 75 years of UN establishment, and it says, the future we want, the UN we need, reaffirming our collective commitment to multilateralism. So our fourth consideration is the test of the global body and our commitment to multilateralism. To me, the fifth consideration is that, if not addressed fairly and justly, the issue has the potential of leading to a war with nuclear implications, which could certainly have regional and global consequences. Sixth, and that is related to Muslims particularly, we are Muslims, and the issue has religious dimension as well, since we share the same religion with the large majority of Kashmiri people. And there is an additional consideration for us being Pakistani, that it is an unfinished agenda related to the creation of this country. In this backdrop, the question as to the present situation in Kashmir may be seen in two ways. In the perspective of last around 11 months, that is post 5 August 2019, when India re-invaded Kashmir, or we may see it in the context of last 75 years of UN existence. Whichever way we look at it, it conveys three key messages. One, Indian consistent denial to fulfill its own commitment to the Kashmiris and the world. Two, continuity of the Kashmir struggle. And three, the failure of the global system to redress the injustices being done to the Kashmiri people and to check Indian illegitimate moves, including gross human rights violations. Throughout the last over 7 decades, and now by its moves on and after 5 August 2019, India has challenged the international community by defying the global rule-based system. It has now constitutionally annexed and divided the territory, arrested all its leaders, and is now settling armed occupiers by giving them properties. So what may happen now? Kashmiris have time and again proved that they are not going to compromise on their fundamental rights. It suggests that they will continue to resist to the unjust Indian moves, and they are not ready to be part of the occupied India. Whereas the Indian government under Modi seems to have played its last gamble. It appears to be continuing with the same position. So what can be done? This brings us to the question of the global governance and its paradigm, as well as role of the international community. The response from the global community is the key. One is encouraged to see a global response, much more to what it used to be during last several years. Occasional statements by some of the top leaders from various countries, Chinese, Turkish, Malaysian, as well as Iranian leadership, these are extremely important. There have been sessions of members of parliament in EU, in Britain, and there have been congressmen meeting on such issues, on this issue, and a couple of informal sessions of the United Nations Security Council. Some other top leaders, though, were not straightforward, but their remarks do communicate a sense of urgency. UN Secretary General has also spoken time and again. Civil society and human rights organizations, including the highest body, UNHRC, and many even in India, have loudly voiced their concerns. While the Indian government has made every effort to hide the facts, many in the international media are forthright in depicting as to what is happening on ground. All this is encouraging. But is it enough? Obviously not. A sustainable and a just solution requires a lot more to be done by the international community in general and by all those who seek for a better world. Those who are sincerely interested in a global governance system which is genuinely based on and concerned for rule of law. While this is a long journey, there is immediate need to put enough pressure on India for immediately lifting restrictions on the movement of people, release all political prisoners, remove all restrictions on communication, and withdraw all its security forces back to barracks and then out of Jammu and Kashmir. Stop any moves to change the demographic composition of the J&K population, and ultimately work out modalities for plebiscite under the UN auspices of the Kashmiri people. For putting such pressure, and I'm glad that there have been so many proposals I heard during this conference also, a well-coordinated, multi-dimensional, short, medium, and long-term strategies are concurrently needed. In all arenas, including but not limited to political, economic, strategic, and media, to name a few. In this regard, it is necessary to realize that governments are important, but at the end of the day, it is the public opinion that counts. Kashmiris cannot tell their stories since India has kept its internet at 2G level, which does not allow for any beneficial communication. We need to take up the job on their behalf. Focus should remain on right of self-determination and the indigenous character of the movement. The role of Pakistan, yes, being a party to the dispute and situated in the immediate neighborhood of the Kashmiris, is extremely important, and it has been rightly emphasized by various speakers here also. And I can admit that a lot needs to be done, and there has been much to be desired. But at the same time, I would like to emphasize once again that for an issue which is international, both in its nature and its implications, each and every member of the international community is responsible to play its role. I would like to stress that an overemphasis on bilateralism vis-a-vis Kashmir and dialogue between Pakistan and India is a way of avoiding and escaping from the human and international responsibilities. Thus, to sum up, Kashmir stands as one of the most pressing issues in the international scenario. It is a test for all those who claim to be peace-loving and champion human rights, be it individuals, communities, and nations or global institutions. Thank you very much.
Khalid Rahman, he made some valuable suggestions, particularly that we need a short-term, medium-term, and long-term concurrent policies. And now, Mr. Ahmad, shall we start a discussion, or we can receive any question from the audience?
Yeah, sure. You have 10 minutes for your evaluation, but you can do, of course, with other people, questions and answers mode.
If anybody from participants is want us to have a question to speakers, he may please put his question. Is nobody there? But I think that today's session was productive, intellectually, and we received a good input from speakers. And it covered almost all areas, particularly when Sir Khalid Rahman said that Kashmir is an international dispute, and we should think and we should concentrate on this dimension, despite there are also other regional and domestic dimensions.
Mr. Shakir, I put my hand up.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Walid, let me just put a question to our very dear friend, Mubin Shah, may Allah bless him. He was such an articulate person, and he really reflected the aspiration of Kashmiris. I just would like to have a clarification. What exactly is the economic free zone when you are talking about Indian occupied Kashmir and Azad Kashmir, so that the audience can understand, inshallah, what exactly is the logistics of that, inshallah.
Dr. Shah Saab, you were for question from you, sir.
Faisal, thank you for raising the question. That free economic zone, because when I was living in Singapore for 13 years, I saw how Singapore has developed. They got their independence in 1965, and they developed, and they are now a very, well-off country. And they developed I went there in 1991, and it was already almost a developed country, and it was based on free trade. Free trade, and because they took advantage of where they were situated geographically. So geographically they were in the center of a place where they had on one side Malaysia, another side Indonesia, another side Brunei, then Philippines and all. So they became an entry port. But the difference was that there was a seaport. While as in our case, in the case of Kashmir, if we are seen geographically, and we used to be a part of the, the caravans previously. So we are on all sides having, for example, we have borders. When you combine both the Kashmirs, we have on our borders on one side China, on the other side Central Asia, other side, when I was president of the chamber, I went to Iran and did an MOU with Isfahan Chamber of Commerce. And because I was visualizing that when the LOC trade will start, it started in 2008, after 2008, that we can do trade with all these areas. And if we are declared both Jammu and Kashmir is declared a free economic zone, that means all the laws of India and Pakistan will go back, or whatever it is. And we will be a free country on practical terms. In practical terms, we will be a free country. Yes, there has to be negotiation on the security. But with China being there now, actually being there because of CPEC, because if you please read my paper, when I wrote a paper on the effect of CPEC on Kashmir, and there this model I clearly described and discussed that this is what it is going to happen, because it will be advantageous for India also to go to Central Asia through Kashmir, and it will be advantageous for China also to do some trade with India. With Central Asia, we are going to be the pivot of trade, and when we are a free economic zone, that means everything, just like we will be Switzerland of the East. We are talking about Switzerland, in the World War, it was a country which was very peaceful because it was doing trade with everybody. The same thing would be happening to Kashmir in this region, and this fight with China is on the doorsteps of India. Pakistan has problems with India. India has problems with Pakistan. Will go off. We will look towards the economic betterment of the whole region, and we will be this I have written in my paper. This will be the new union of South Asia. We will be the new union of South Asia without leaving aside their egos of Pakistan, India, and for that matter, China also. So through the economy, I feel we have a model of settlement of Kashmir. We as a Kashmiri, I as a Kashmiri, are pining for a settlement where my people will also develop in the way other people are developing. There is governance in the same way as it is in every other place. So this is my meaning of the free economic zone.
Dr. Walid Rasool, if you could allow me to make a comment on this particular subject.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You may proceed, sir, please.
Thank you. I think this idea of Dr. Mubin Shah to think for something that could break the status quo is extremely important. For governments, it will always be difficult to change their positions. And we know that as far as India is concerned, it has not shown any flexibility until now. So while the idea is good to be pursued at intellectual level and to do some homework, but it should be realized that we need to put India under pressure to come to that point where it is ready to break the status quo. Otherwise, very good ideas might lose their significance, and without pressure, we cannot expect that India would be ready for any kind of this proposal.
Yes, sir. I want to ask some question.
You may continue, please.
Yes,
And-
sir.
and-
My question is from the.
But you have to introduce yourself also, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. My name is Akib Ali Hedri, and I am the part of the. I have done my electrical engineering, and I am currently residing in the Muzaffarabad, Azad Kashmir. And my question is that if any one of you could answer that when I see the organization which have met in the Europe and in the North America and in the Central America and the Latin America, like the Mercosur, like the Caribbean community, like the V4 grade, they have contributed to each other for the economic and for the political alliance to get rid of from the poverty and from the conflicts which have mad in their country. So I am just wondering that what are the reasons that there is no one community in our Muslim nation that who is willing to contribute to the Kashmir cause for the Kashmiri peoples. And we have seen that the Western powers have been resolved the matter of the Jews, and now it is a matter of the Muslims. And I'm still wondering as a youth, as a young that why there is no organization in the world or in the Muslim community who is eager to solve such matters at very immediate levels. So my question is, I think it is clear and precise.
So, sir, is anybody answering his question? Sir Khalid, you might have heard his question from Hadri Saab from Azad Kashmir.
I have heard this question. It's apparently it's a very short question, but it requires a very long discussion. Perhaps another conference should be held on this particular subject. But to be very frank, we need to realize that the current situation of the Muslim world is not ideal. And we cannot expect things to be changed just in a short span of time. So first of all, we need to realize that this is a long journey. Status quo is not an option, but at the time there is no shortcut, and we will have to develop ourselves. And in that regard, I think while there can be a number of areas where we need to focus and develop, most important is the knowledge and education. And when the question has been put by a young man, I would like to emphasize that our youth need to focus on not only gaining knowledge, but producing knowledge in every area where you are studying. So unless we are not ready to go in that direction, and when I say youth should go for that, I mean that the others also in the society, the philanthropists, the policy makers, the politicians, all need to make it the top priority. We are discussing Kashmir, and we can realize that even in today, when we make a kind of assessment of the understanding of the Kashmir issue, even within the Kashmiri youth, we find that there is a lot of deficiency. So I know the time constraints, so I would stop here, emphasizing that the most important factor is education and knowledge, and we need to move towards producing knowledge. When Muslims were in a great position in this world, they were great also in the knowledge area. And today's world is no exception. So we will have to go for that.
Mr. Walid, I have an observation and a question. Salman Khan. Hello?
You can
Can
continue.
you hear me?
Yeah, you may continue.
Okay, I got a small 2 or 3 small observations. One is for our brother Emir Aktun, who provide some sort of statics and the stats onto the Kashmir issue and the OIC and some historical documents and comparative study. One point I'd like to raise, which is a technical and very, very critical issue, that the instrument of accession which India claim that the Maharaja have signed, that is a fraudulent document, because India until today cannot find the document to produce into any court of international jurist to prove that is the original document. I have the copy of the original document, which we dispute because there's so many error on that on the document. It was written in August. It is crossed off by the hand. It's wrong dates. So that document is not valid, and I think it is very important that we need to emphasize and bring it or expose that the 86,000 kilometer radius of a Kashmir cannot be sold or cannot be exceed on such a fraudulent document. One. Secondly, to my dear brother and comrade Dr. Mubin Shah, I think your idea is noble and it is very ambitious, but I think it's very much like something for the future. You cannot build a house, or you cannot put up a roof on a top of the house until you have the foundation. Without a pillar, you can't put up a. So your idea is great. I think it's very visionary that I like to see it in the future. But when you have a fire on the all side of a Kashmir, you cannot be idealistically. It is idealistically wrong to have the idea at the moment, because first of all you need to neutralize the situation. It's an international issue. It needs to be a peace. It needs to be a treaty between India, Pakistan, and all sort of a the stakeholder before you can provide a trade-free zone. Yes, it is a future idea, but I think it is very irrelevant at the time when there is a war. Is all the Kashmir is burning from all direction. We cannot say that the Kashmir is heaven, because we need to bring the peace. My last input to the doctor, the last gentleman, he was talking about the internationalization. I think that's where we got it wrong. For many, many years, there is always been a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. It has never been truly exposed on an international level. And I think that is our key point and a very starting point, that we need to bring it out from that bilateralism to the internationalism. And that's when the people start recognizing internationally. And India always maintain, in South Africa, whenever you have a conference, whenever you invite them at any forum, they say, no, it is a bilateral issue, and between India and Pakistan, we will sort it out, though nobody must mediate. But my fundamental question is, at the beginning of the dispute, it was Nehru who took it to the international body and make it international issue. So how come it can say it's the bilateral issue? I think that's a very important point that we need.
Mr.
Your microphone
Amri,
is off. Yeah.
Mr. Amri,
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
I'm
you
here.
Are you hearing?
Yeah, I heard, and just thanks for the additions
And
of
the question is asked the gentleman regarding you. You might answer first, because it is
Thank
question for all personalities who have deliberated.
You're right. So, as I was just reflecting the views of the stances of the countries on the Kashmir issue, as the India's stance on the Kashmir issue, I wouldn't call this document, Maharaja's agreement, as the so-called documents or something. I need to be reflecting the India's view. As personally, I'm just in the supporting of Kashmir and Pakistani view, but as I'm just sharing this screen as the India's stance on the Kashmir issue, I should say this: Maharaja Singh's agreements exist, and they believe it is original, and so I couldn't say, as you can understand, I couldn't say so-called agreements for sure.
Dr. Shah, the question for you is that this doctrine is utopian, not practical. How you want to elaborate it, sir? The question asked by
I'm sorry, Professor. First,
I want to answer this very, very clearly and categorically. That all these 73 years, we have been either talking bilaterally or trying to do internationally. And what have we got out of all this? We have to have an alternative model. My point is the alternative model that when is there will be a win-win situation for all the three. Today now China is now there because you can't expect China to go out of it and see because of CPEC. For them, CPEC is a very, very, जैसे हम Pakistan बोल रहा था, jugular vein is Kashmir. Now CPEC is jugular vein of China. Let us be very, very clear and categorical about it. Because I know from this area where I am
flagship project incorporated
not
in
only
the constitution
flagship,
of
sir,
the China.
not only flagship, it is an alternative route for their whole trade. And they will not compromise on anything which will damage that. And I will tell you very categorical. When I was in the chamber, and you know, we have a system by which any delegation which used to come from Delhi, particularly of the ambassador level and other things, once we had a US delegation coming to Kashmir, they would every time come and ask from the chamber that what is the situation now and all that. They will, you know, after every 3 months, 6 months come there. And when CPCA had also already come, and I had to put this point to the commercial attaché of the American government, and I was surprised. He got, normally a person of that type do not react. He reacted so vehemently against it. He said, we will never allow the CPEC to become successful. So my dear gentlemen, the problem is, I know this happened in 1962. We became a part of the Cold War. We don't want, Kashmir doesn't want itself to become again a part of the Cold War between China, America, and all that. This is a situation where India has to agree to a certain extent for the region's betterment, that they become a part of CPEC and do not fall in the American thing. For example, for that matter, I'm not saying that America is thinking badly about us, but this is hegemony of the whole world. That is what it is. So, for our regional, that is why if the conference was based on region and what, this is the model on which China will be also interested to talk to India. And the world in community may put pressure on India that this is the simple way by which there is a win-win situation for everybody. We will avoid 2 nuclear wars. 2, gentlemen, 2. And I fear it is going towards that if India becomes sort of belligerent with the support of America. But the whole population, I told you, 65% of the population will be in risk. This is my contention, and if it may be too late afterwards, because till today China is in a stage that they can talk about all this, and India may be ready to do. And if we make a first move, the Pakistan government or whoever the friendly countries like Turkey, like Middle East, they can they can put this together. It is an utopian issue, but sometimes in such situations you have to develop some models by which everything can become all right. We want peace. We want peace, and we feel that this is how it will happen, with no egos hurt on any side.
Sir Khalid Rahman, about the document of the accession, what gentleman asked to his third part of the question.
Sorry, if possible, I would like to just, because I was informed we are overrunning our time that is spared for us. If it would be quick, we would be very happy. The last one. Mr. Rasul, shall I continue with the second session, the announcement of the second session? Do you have anything to add? Okay, I assume no. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah. Before you will start the second session, I have one point just.
Yeah, sure.
And the concluding remark is that there was, what I got, that there was a strong correlation and synergy between the points which has been raised by Dr. Mubin Shah and the other distinguished guests, with the points which His Excellency raised, that we have already raised those points with the India. So this is a good note. We should conclude it in this with thanks.
Thank you very much.